All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight for our caregiver guidance session, focus on deepening conversations as we move through grief with our children and families. My name is Sarah Beam Guillen, and I work with the Eluna Resource Center, and I'm here tonight to really support our amazing presenter, Kelly. But before I introduce Kelly, I do want to take a brief moment to thank the Cigna Group Foundation for their financial support in helping us to make ripples of change in the way we care for children and teens who are grieving. The Cigna Group Foundation is a private foundation that supports organizations sharing its commitment to improve the health and vitality of individuals and the communities. So tonight, we're honored to have you all here with us. And I'm going to now have the opportunity to introduce you to Kelly Peterson. We are both moms here first. That is our first job. But Kelly is also a licensed social worker, and she's an amazing bereavement clinician and specialist that we have here on our Eluna staff. So I'm going to now turn it over to you, Kelly, to begin. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. I love your kind words as always. All right, welcome everyone. I am super excited that you are here. Welcome if you're here tonight, and also if you're watching the recording later. I am so glad that you chose to do so. Welcome officially to Eluna's Caregiver Guidance Series. I think this is our fourth webinar in this series, and I would love for you to tell me if you have attended a previous caregiver guidance webinar. So you can either tell me in the chat, you can throw up some emojis. Those are all super fun too. Yes, I see a hand. That's lovely. Thank you so much. Awesome. I love seeing the chat. I'm telling you, friends, it makes my heart happy. So our hope is that you leave these webinars feeling empowered and more confident in the ways you show up and support the children and teens who are grieving in your life. My name is Kelly Peterson, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and the Camp Erin online program manager. I have been supporting children and teens and families who have experienced the death of someone close for 16 years. And I hope to share some nuggets of wisdom that I have gained from the many, what I like to call pint-sized philosophers that I have supported over the years. So please, let's create some community in the chat. I really do love seeing reactions. I love reading what is resonating, what is feeling true, and what you're excited about in the chat. So to get us started, if you're willing, we would love for you to share where you're joining from today and maybe what feels really hard when it comes to having conversations with the child or teen in your life. So take just a couple minutes there. And we will indeed try to pull out some themes and address those themes either tonight during the final moments of our webinar, or we can also use them to inform future caregiver webinars. So every piece of information in the chat is very useful. And let's keep that chat chatty. And I'm really excited to see some of those cities and states coming through. All right. So as always, I like to actually start with a great big thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know that your list of things to do is so incredibly long and you have a lot of competing priorities. And so I really do want to thank you for choosing to be here, choosing to prioritize yourself and your family and your grief. And I'm super proud of you for doing so. All right. As Sarah shared, we have so much good stuff to cover today. So we are going to jump right in and talk about the protective factor. So some of you may be familiar with ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences. And I'm not going to take a ton of time here, but the findings of this study are clear that the presence of a caring, loving relationship with a primary caregiver is the #1 protective factor against the biological, physiological, and social impacts that ACEs often have. So when kids have a secure attachment, it literally protects their development, their developing brain, from toxic stress and supports their healthy emotional development, and it strengthens their resilience. Yay, right? These are all positive, good things. So that is our goal for today. And what I believe with my whole heart is that parents and caregivers, just like myself, want to show up and be that caring presence for their kids. I know it's true for me. And the truth is, sometimes my desire is much bigger than my actual capacity. Can anybody relate? Do any of you ever feel like you want to show up fully, but you are running on empty? Often our desire to love and support our kiddos is so big, and we want to be endlessly patient, available, and present, but our capacity is affected by so many things. So just to name a few, if you need a little validation in the moment, we are holding so much. Talk about the everyday demands, right? Getting everybody to school and work and preparing meals, helping kids with homework, getting the little people to all the extracurriculars, organizing carpools and bake sales, and making sure to sign up for teacher conferences, right? This is all just the everyday demands. And many caregivers are also remembering a spouse or a partner that previously contributed to the financial well-being of the family. So sometimes we as caregivers have to start working when we hadn't previously worked, and others may have to pick up a second job or work more hours just to make ends meet. And no matter the living arrangement, there is upkeep and maintenance. So some of which can actually turn into much bigger headaches and financial stressors if we don't pay attention and address them timely. And likely you are grieving too. Brain fog is real, friends. When we are grieving, we aren't getting enough sleep. We are experiencing all the changes with appetite, sleep, mood, memory. In the midst of grief, our brains are quite literally not functioning at 100%. Many caregivers are also experiencing many other changes, like relocation or a change in their support system. How about you all? What are some of the other things that get in the way of you being fully present? What are you carrying that other people may not even see? I'd love to see some in the chat. Yes. My own grief, helping other family members grieve, burnout, your own trauma. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Emotional exhaustion. Yes. The bottom line is that most days we as caregivers are just trying to put one foot in front of the other. We are trying to get out of bed every morning and breathe and in and out all day long. Does anybody know what that movie is? It is an oldie, but a goodie, but it's Sleepless in Seattle. He says, get out of bed every morning and breathe in and out all day long. The idea of adding on dealing with our own grief or even supporting our kids' grief, well, that doesn't sound fun. And actually, it literally feels out of reach and out of the question. Oh, friends, how I wish I had some kind of magic wand that helped relieve some of those barriers for all of us, but that's just not a reality. So here's a question. Take a moment to think about. What would it feel like to see your capacity limits as a reflection of your humanity rather than a reflection of your love? Oof, that's a good one. What would it feel like to have strategies that helped you maximize the limited capacity that we have at any given moment? Here's my hope for today. My hope is that you leave this space with greater confidence to maximize the use of your understandably limited capacity by enhancing the day-to-day moments and conversations that we have with our kids and teens so that they can feel seen, heard, and supported in everyday life and in the midst of their grief. The idea here is for us to be able to acknowledge the limitations, incorporate some well-deserved grace, and then focus on ways we can show up well for our kids and teens with strategies that will help us deepen those moments we do have for conversation and connection. And I know for me, when I think about all the barriers that prevent me from showing up well, I start to get really hard on myself. Friends, this is not easy. Grief is really hard. Life is hard. Parenting is hard. Supporting your family in the midst of grief, it's hard. But hear me, you are actually doing a really great job. The fact that you are here participating in this webinar means that you are prioritizing yourself and your family. There are obviously a million other things you could be doing, but you are here. So show yourself some grace and consider how you might treat a friend who has experienced a loss. Be as kind to yourself as you would be to that friend who is grieving. You deserve it. So pick an analogy, whether it's put the oxygen mask on before assisting others, or my favorite, which is we can't pour from an empty cup. The idea is that self-care, it's not selfish. It is self-preservation. Showing up for others is more possible when you are taking care of you and finding the support that feels right to you in this season. For some of you, that may mean recognizing your own grief is natural and that it is okay to not have it all together. Your grief is real and it does have a real impact on you. You are not doing it wrong. There actually is not a right way. There is also a lot of support available. So take some time to consider what feels helpful to you in this season. You aren't alone. All right, let's pause already for a quick deep breath. Whew. So one of the best things we can do for ourselves and our family is to create some realistic expectations about grief and the grief process. There are a ton of myths and untruths about grief out there. Here is the truth. Grief is natural. It doesn't mean there is something wrong with you. It can make you feel like you're going crazy. It takes more than the typically allotted 3 bereavement days. There actually are no stages to check off to get to the other side of grief, and it changes over time. And grief requires one thing from us: to grieve. And while all of that is true and good, it is also true that stuff still has to get done. We still have to keep going. Just keep swimming, keep getting out of bed every morning and breathing in and out all day long. And 2 things can be true at the same time. We can need to keep going, and we can be intentional about finding times and ways to make space for our grief and our family's grief. This, in its simplest form, is learning about compartmentalization. Big word, right? Learning the magic of finding balance between stepping in and stepping out of grief. So typically, adults are really familiar with coping skills and self-care strategies, as we talk about it a lot. But one thing that I try to really focus on is that there is a difference between a step-in coping skill and a step-out coping skill. I'm going to talk about it next. So I know this is new for some of us, so take this in. A step-in activity helps you to step into and process thoughts and feelings associated with your grief. A step-out activity allows you to step out of your grief, even if momentarily, and focus your attention on something you enjoy or something that just has to get done. So let's see if we can drive this one home. So in the chat, open your chat. I want you to share some activities with me that you enjoy, that help you to feel better. So the step out activities, we're going to start with that one. What are some of those activities? They could be anything. They could be hobbies. They could be sports that you enjoy, anything that activities that you do that really help you to feel better? I see baking and running and meditation and yoga. Yes, all of these. Gardening, hiking, camping, watching feel-good movies. Oh, they're going so fast. Karaoke. Oh, friend, yes. We could go for walks. Puzzling, also a friend. I love a good puzzle. Reading, yes. Okay, you get it. Awesome, fantastic. Next, how about step-in activities? So these kind of activities actually acknowledge the big thoughts and big feelings related to your grief. So this one's a little more tricky. Just think about those activities that you do that really are like stepping into your grief. Yes, therapy, journaling, listening to music. Ooh, let me talk about listening to music for a minute because it actually can be both. You can use music as a step-in activity. Maybe you're listening to a song that reminds you of the person who died. Or maybe you are looking for a song that helps express how you feel. That can definitely be used as a stepping in activity. Stepping out with music could be a dance party or just listening to fun, upbeat music. You can see how some coping skills actually can fit in both categories. Yes, dancing, nature, breathing, visiting the cemetery. Yes. Talking to a person who understands and will be with me instead of fix it. Oh, hold that. Love that. So, friends, having a list of both step in and step out activities is really meaningful and honestly essential when you're trying to compartmentalize, to keep going, but also create space for grief work. So, for those of you who are taking notes, we have already talked about the importance of self-compassion and the importance of creating space for both activities that help us step in to our grief and step out activities that help us to set aside momentarily so that we can still take care of the things we need to take care of. These two things are super duper important so that for us to be able to show up well to support our kids and teens and families. Now we're going to talk about some things to keep in mind that are going to help us deepen conversation and connection with our kids and teens. You might actually be surprised at where we go first. First, we have to focus on safety and security, then strengthening the family bonds. These two things are crucial and have to be done before any real meaningful conversations can happen. So to understand this, we have to break it down and bring it all the way back to Maslow. Anybody remember Maslow? Maslow. Simply speaking, all right, before we can reach those higher levels of need on the pyramid, we have to take care of the ones at the bottom. So before we can get to the deeper and more vulnerable conversations, we have to make sure that everyone has what they need to survive. They can't think about their thoughts or their feelings when they don't know where they are going to stay or where they're going to get their next meal. So please, if you or someone you know could use some support in this area, it's okay. There are resources out there. Again, you are not alone. And if you aren't quite sure where to start there, you can reach out to us and we can help you get connected. Sarah shared a link in the chat already, but please use it if that is a need and you're interested in that personalized support. Beyond those physiological needs, sometimes we skip over the real need for safety and security. So stick with me. Can you imagine meeting somebody for the very first time and having to answer the question, what is the deepest pain you've ever experienced? I think we would all agree that if we don't feel safe, loved, and accepted, it might be kind of hard to show up authentically in those kinds of moments. The same is true for kids. They need to have strong and ongoing reassurance that they will continue to be cared for. So much for the whole family has changed. So we have to take time and be intentional to reassure them that they are still loved, they are still part of a family, and we have support, and we can do hard things together. All right, a little bit more here on that love and belonging need. Safety isn't just about physical safety. It is also about creating emotional safety, feelings of love and belonging. This comes from a sense of connection and meaningful relationships with natural supports. So, how do we create emotional safety for our kids and teens? Let's go back to the question from that stranger. What is the deepest pain you've ever experienced? But now, this time, let's pretend it isn't a stranger, but a dear friend or a family member. But they ask the question and then don't actually listen to your answer. They start multitasking or talking over you, making you feel wrong about the why it hurts so bad. Maybe, worst of all, they say things like, oh, you're fine. Everything is going to be okay. Just get over it. This kind of response happens in the lives of kiddos and grown-ups, I know. At school, with their peers, and honestly, with anyone who has not personally experienced the death of somebody close. But what if that friend really shows up and they listen and they validate and they don't try to fix it? So a while back, I was introduced to this word attunement, and it kind of changed my world. So it isn't a word that we use very often, but I think it is really helpful in talking about showing up well for our kids in those conversations. So attuning is more than just active listening. It is the process of being deeply aware of and responsive to another person's inner world, allowing them to feel truly seen, safe, and understood. Now that sounds like the presence of a caring, loving relationship. And the truth is, this doesn't always come naturally to us. We are busy. We are problem solvers, and we want more than anything to take away pain and make people feel better. So when we are attuning, we have to resist that urge to fix it, just like my friend in the chat. We create the space for kids and teens to share thoughts and feelings, and then we just listen, truly listen. In order to do this, we have to slow down. We have to slow down enough that we can lean in those moments and help them to know that that we are truly interested in learning what they're saying and what they are experiencing in this season. And then when they do share, we want to be responsive, offering compassion and understanding. Again, we aren't trying to fix it or take it away, even when that is what we all desperately want to do. Instead, we are just present, listening deeply and reflecting and validating their experience. Even if it doesn't match yours, and even if it isn't completely logical, it is their experience, and it's okay if it's different than yours. Think about a person that you have this kind of relationship with, a relationship that you feel truly loved just for who you are. What does it look like when they show up for you? Share some things that stand out to you in the chat. How does that person show that you are loved? How do they make you feel safe? Yes, no judgment. Excellent. They remember the details. Oh, that's a good one. They acknowledge the feeling. They check in frequently. She feeds me my favorite food without asking. I love it. That's a good one. Let's see a couple more. What are some other ways that our people show up well for us? How do they help us to feel really loved? Checks on me often. Yep. All right. So for all of those reasons, it remembers the dates. Oh, that's such a good one, Jasmine. Yes. So for all the reasons in the chat and many, many more, the fact is that deep conversations don't typically happen when we try to do them on a big, huge talk out of the blue. We have to actually create that emotional safety first. We do that by creating frequent, relaxed, and emotionally safe interactions. Think for a minute. Are there times and spaces where you notice your child or teen is more talkative than others? Typically, youth and grown-ups, for that matter, feel safer when the interaction is side by side. So in the car on the way to school or practice, going for a walk, during a game or while coloring or baking, side by side eliminates that awkward eye contact, and it just feels more casual and less intense. It may seem obvious that a device-free space is preferred, at least on your side. Make sure that they know that they are the most important thing to you in that moment. Curiosity is our friend in these interactions. Ask low-pressure questions. We can talk about a few phrases that I think really help open the conversations on the next slide. When possible, consider showing your vulnerable side. If you are willing to be vulnerable, it may just invite them to share more too. I don't mean shifting the conversation fully to your experience, but being vulnerable in this type of interaction is like owning your human experience as well. So it looks like something like, oh, yeah, that makes sense that you would feel that way. Sometimes I have a really hard time with that too. I believe that kids and teens sometimes think we grown-ups have it all together, and we don't feel, and we don't struggle, and we are basically robots that just get stuff done around them. If we can just be real and make sure that they know we are human too. And consider how you can create some routines and rituals that layer in these kinds of interactions, small ones and deeper ones too. So take a moment and read through a few of these new approaches to opening up conversation. Read them over, think about which one is your favorite, what feels like something that you could use in your family. Tell me more about that. How is your heart today? It makes sense that you would feel that way. I'm here, even if it's just to sit with you, or I can listen. Teach me about how your grief has been showing up for you lately. These are all really great ways to open up the conversation with anyone. And for those of you who are looking for what not to say, I would just avoid anything that feels like fixing, comparing, or minimizing. And obviously, open-ended questions are more likely to get you open-ended answers. So again, friends, give yourself grace. We all do this. It is human nature. I catch myself doing it too. But it's also a great opportunity when we do mess up to model repairing. You know what? I didn't handle that quite as well as I could have. I'm sorry. Let me try again. If you liked those new approaches, how's your heart? Teach me about your grief. You're probably going to love these ideas too. These are just some other ways to open up conversation. The first one is about creating family touch points or check-ins. Many might be familiar with high-low buffalo or rosebud thorn. These are just a quick and easy to remember way to do a family check-in. These can be used daily. At my house, we use something like this every day, and my kids actually initiate it. I also really like start, stop, and continue. It is really great for being proactive and navigating many of those like tricky spots, like preparing for the holidays or a Remembrance Day. This one prompts you and your family to consider 3 things. The green light is, what do you want to start doing in this season? What is something new you guys want to try on? The red light is, what is something you want to stop doing, even if it's temporarily in this season, and because it doesn't fit still, or it is no longer serving you. And then the yellow light, what is something that you have been doing that has been meaningful or felt supportive that you want to keep doing? Make sure when you do this one that everybody gets a chance to weigh in as you prepare for one of those days. And then check this one out. The conversation playbook. This is actually 12 activities in one. I know as a mom, I still do a face palm when I say, "How was your day?" And then of course, I get, "It was fine." So this is a list of quick, creative, and check-ins designed to make those conversations flow more naturally. And they can become a fun part of your everyday life. And then, of course, we get to practice our tuning skills. Ooh, tell me more about that. And yes, I hear what you're saying. That was really kind that you were able to help someone today. What was that like for you? I'm going to highlight just a couple of the prompts here in the conversation playbook, but don't worry, you're going to get an access to these activity sheets at the end of our time together tonight, as well as in a follow-up email. So no worries. But a couple of that I'd like to highlight is I love a good gratitude prompt. This first one is giving 60 seconds to make a list of things we are grateful for. Ooh, and it would be like super fun to have a prize for the person who comes up with the most in 60 seconds. Sometimes our kids avoid talking about their grief because they don't want to make us upset. Something like a write back notebook can help. Your kid can write a note and leave it for you in the notebook, and then you get to choose a good time to circle back to it and then respond. When words feel hard, a doodle a day might be a good way to open up conversation. It's just draw a doodle that represents your day. So you can see some of these are just fun and others are more reflective, getting them to really talk about their day, like high five lists and personality quizzes and a family mixed tape. The laugh track, that's really fun. It might need to come with a little disclaimer, but the idea is for everyone to bring a funny video or meme to share together. Okay, so we've covered the importance of safety and security. Assure them that they are still loved, they're still part of a family, and that you and your family can do hard things together. Create space for opportunity for connection, lead with curiosity, and attune. All right, now for strengthening bonds. This is done through cohesion, family identity, and fun. Honestly, I think this also has to come before we can really make any progress on the grief work. Cohesion and strong family bonds gives us something to build on, a stronger foundation. So what is cohesion? I love the definition that cohesion refers to the act, state, or process of parts sticking together as a united whole. It's a beautiful image. All the individual parts of a family coming together, bonded and supporting each other through this really hard thing that happened. Building in consistent, intentional habits and daily routines and identifying the things that make your family unique and power. That's how we build cohesion. This can be established in creating family schedules, working in times for shared meals, incorporating those meaningful family rituals. Ultimately, cohesion is built around consistent and intentional connection. Having fun, trying new things, doing activities together helps build cohesion. Maybe it's trying on some of those step out activities as a family, and those can provide us that momentary and intentional break from the heaviness of grief. Remember, grief does not have to be at the center of every conversation, every moment of every day. We can focus on finding shared values and things we enjoy doing together as a family. The biggest thing here is to fight what likely feels like human nature to isolate. When things get hard, I think many of us have the human nature to hide, avoid, withdraw, and get small. But families that come together, stay together, even in the midst of grief. Okay, Now, I am super excited to share some resources that I think will help with this concept of strengthening the family bonds. These and all the others I will share, again, will be available to you in one central convenient place. And I'm going to share the link when we get to the end so you can bookmark it for the future reference. So just take some time to soak it all in. So the first one here on the left is actually 30 ideas for family fun. Obviously, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I'm hoping it feels like a gift on those days when you want to do something fun, but you're kind of stuck on coming up with the idea. This is actually a printable poster that you can put on your fridge or bulletin board so that it can inspire your next family fun day. What I love most about these kind of activities is that they help us incorporate some joy in the midst of our grief. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Just because you are having fun as a family doesn't mean that you are done grieving. You're just making space for both joy and grief, and you're strengthening your bonds. And then I have two other strengthening bond activities. One is more fun and lighthearted, and the other is definitely more involved. So the photo scavenger hunt is like my favorite thing. It's a great way to get everyone involved and to really create some fun new memories. And honestly, it's kind of impossible to do some of these prompts without experiencing joy. Some of my favorite prompts are: laughter is the best medicine. Take a family of the funniest thing you can find. Rise above. A picture of your family posing as if they were flying. Remember your roots. Your family posing like trees or just under a tree. And it would be super fun to make an outing of this photo scavenger hunt and then make a collage of all the pictures. What a conversation piece that will be. Family vision board. This one is bigger for sure. More time, more involved, but also super powerful. It can be really helpful in establishing a strong family identity. There are prompts on what to include, but it's very adaptable. Maybe you consider dedicating the board to the person you're remembering and adding a quote or phrase that really helps you stay connected to them. You can also explore values that feel important, hopes and goals for the future, and ideas on how to stay connected to each other and to the person who died. So after we have spent some time having fun together and strengthening those family bonds, we can step in a little further. As we all know, the world does a really terrible job of preparing us for this thing called grief. And like we talked about, there are a lot of myths and untruths about grief. It can be really helpful to have some shared language to talk about grief and spend some time setting more realistic expectations about what you and your family might be experiencing. So when I teach about grief, I try to keep it super simple and focus on 3 truths. Grief is natural, grief is unique, and grief changes. Especially important are the idea of recognizing that even within your own family, we are going to see a variety of grief responses. Even though you're all grieving the same person, each of you is different, and you each have your own life experiences, and you each have your own unique connection with the person who died. All of these things impact the way a person grieves. So even within our own family, we need to spend time learning about each other's grief. And each person is the expert on their own grief experience. Knowing how each person is grieving is the gateway to knowing how we can support each other. So next up, we have resources and activities that help us lean in and learn a bit about each other's grief experience and even identify some ways that are actually helpful. All right, again, don't worry, they're available to you and will be available to you at the end and via email. But this one is called Your Grief is Unique, and it identifies some of the most common ways grief shows up. Emotionally, physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually. One way that you can use this is to print a copy and then give each person a different color highlighter. Ask each person to highlight the reactions they personally are experiencing or have experienced. What you will find is that some of the colors will overlap while others will stand out as different. This really opens up an opportunity to reinforce that there isn't just one way to grieve. And the two smaller ones here are also great in gaining some insights into what grief is like for your people. The first has a list of common physical grief reactions. You can have each person create a little note card or scrap paper, one that says never, one that says sometimes, and one that says always. Then you're going to read the reactions out loud and have each person hold up a card that represents their experience. This can help normalize some of those less commonly understood impacts of grief, like headaches and changes in sleep and appetite. And then here on the bottom, we have circles of comfort, and it's a simple and sweet way to learn about what brings comfort to your child or teen. They can write down the people, the places, the things that bring comfort. Then go outside and do a step out activity like blowing bubbles to tie it all together. And then when you do get the link for these resources, there's an activity sheet with instructions and associated handouts and even supplies that you might need. So you'll have access to those. All right, grief talks can be a great way to open up conversation. The idea here is to set aside some time to connect and go through some guided questions. I have a lot of versions of these that I will share. But some examples are, what parts of your grief are surprising or frustrating or most difficult for you? In what ways have you changed since the person died? What is it like for you to talk about the person who died? There's also a holiday version that might be helpful in the coming months. An example from that one is, what can you do to feel close to and remember the person who died this season? Take a drink break. All right, real truth. I think a lot of kids and teens and grown-ups put all those walls up and shut down conversation because they think that all we want to talk about is the day the person died, when everything in the world changed, and then they have to keep talking about it over and over and over, replaying it. And while it is super important for everybody to have an opportunity to tell their story, the way the person died is only part of the story, and it doesn't have to be the center of every conversation or every activity. Another important reason we focus on how they lived is the fact that it is actually really common for people who are grieving to worry that over time, those memories of and connections with the person who died will fade. But our brains are pretty amazing things. The more we think about it, talk about it, write about something, like the special memories of doing life with that person, the easier and faster they are to recall. So you will see as we go through the next few activities, they focus a lot on memories and maintaining that connection with the person who died. I love memory activities. One of my favorite is memory story cards. This is a list of questions that the youth will ask you or another grown-up that knew the person who died well. The questions open up opportunities for the kiddos to learn more about and hear special stories about the person who died. On the left, I have some basic story cards with questions like, where, when, and how did you meet? In what ways am I like the person who died? What was your favorite thing to do together? There's also a summer edition with questions like, what kind of music did they listen to in the car on long trips? Did they like roller coasters, water parks? What are some of the summertime family traditions? You can see how these types of questions could really open up fun stories and help both of you feel connected to that person who died. A memory scavenger hunt can be a great family activity and a great way to gather up items that could go into a memory box or a shadow box. Here are a few examples. Find something that reminds you of your person's favorite color, your person's personality, a strength or talent that you remember. Find something that represents something they taught you, something you have in common with them, or a trip or a vacation that you had with them. These items might be different for every person, And again, that just opens up more opportunities for story sharing. And the memory symbols activity can also be a great art project or online activity. You and your kids can name a few of your favorite memories and think about a symbol that could represent that memory. Then use those symbols to create a collage with art or using images online. So, for example, my granddaddy loved jelly beans, so I would include a jelly bean on my collage, which without context, you wouldn't be able to understand, but would just make me smile and offer an opportunity for me to tell you my story. My best friend and I would go to county fairs together and play that toss the ball into a fishbowl game. We actually won one time, so I would make a fish as a symbol to represent that memory and include it in my collage. I also wanted to include a few honoring and remembering activities. I know we've gone through so much already, but stick with me. We got a couple more activities to share. Meaningful messages. There are several ways to do this. The idea is to create intentional time and space to think about messages you and your family want to send to the person you're remembering. And then you get to choose how you want to symbolically release those messages in a way that feels meaningful to you. Maybe you do blowing love bubbles, love bubble messages, flying a kite, skipping rocks, or releasing flowers on a body of water. Wish paper, dissolving paper, and messages in the sand can also be tangible ways to share meaningful messages too. The memory garden is really fun. It's a great remembrance activity. The garden can be as small as a bucket on your balcony or a big giant field. You can choose a purpose or a theme, and then you're going to pick some items that bring meaning and significance. Sculptures, lanterns, wind chimes, pinwheels, water features, walking paths, stepping stones, all the things. And then this little memory garden can be a place that you and your family revisit and help maintain over time. It can also be helpful to shift the focus to gratitude and kindness. So find some smooth rocks and decorate them with hope, joy, and encouragement, and leave them around your house or in your community. Supporting and encouraging others in any capacity can help us step outside of ourselves and provide a meaningful break from the heaviness of our grief. Okay, tribute candles. There's tons and tons of ways to do these, but one that I have really loved using is vellum paper and a battery candle, Sharpies, and tape. So each person can make their own candle. They can write their name, the person they're remembering. They can maybe send a message or add a quote or a lyric that feels meaningful to them. Then they tape two sides together, place a tea light inside, and then they can be used to kind of create that space to remember together. I'll save memory chain for you to read in following our time together, but I want to make sure we talk about Forever Blended. It is an all-time favorite for Sarah and I. This one uses Play-Doh or Floam. Each person takes two different colors of the Play-Doh. You can do this one also with them. One color will represent the person holding the Play-Doh, and the other will represent the person who died. Maybe that Play-Doh is their favorite color or something. And then you individually, you'll combine the two colors together, smushing them together to make one big ball. And as you do this, you're going to explain to them that the colors are combining, and that represents all the things they got to do together, the things they have in common, the memories they hold, and the love that they share. After they are nice and blended, ask them to separate the two colors. They will look at you like you're crazy. And then you get to say, see, you and your person will be forever blended. We love that one. All right, here it is. This is the QR code. I will also share the link in the chat, and just in case that's easier. So take a look at these resources we've gathered for you. I think Sarah's going to put the link in the chat as well. And I'm going to pass it to her because she's going to explain what you're going to find on this link.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelly. Every time I get to be in a webinar with you, I keep learning more and reminding myself. My daughter's at 6 years old, is going through her own big grief right now. With losing her birth mom. And so sending messages of love, because she never really knew the person. So can't do a lot of memory work, but we can do a lot of the sending messages to the bubbles. And then that comes up at night and we send her these wishes every single night. And it's really become such a meaningful one for us. So I so appreciate that one. So yeah, take a look, everyone. I mean, you heard it from Kelly, how amazing some of these activities are to kind of have these side-by-side opportunities to go a little deeper in our conversations, our connections, and then eventually our grief talk as well. So this link will take you there. You're going to see all of Kelly's wonderful activities she's made, some list of our recommended go-to books to open conversations as well. You're going to see one of our past webinars if you want to go a little deeper. Also some direct links on how to find our in-person grief camp, Camp Erin, right? So that's our in-person free grief camp for ages 6 to 17. And those are in about 32 locations right now across the United States and Canada. And then also the Resource Center. So you'll learn a little bit more about the resources that my team and I provide through personalized support in both Spanish and English, totally free. And then just different little things you can find throughout our Resource Center. So we really want to welcome you into our spaces here in our community and really take advantage of all these great things we have to offer, hopefully for you as well. So definitely take a look, scan the code, and then we hope to see you at some more events as well. So for the next slide, Kelly, do you want to put up the link for the survey? So we would love to hear your feedback on how this was for you tonight. Really be honest with us, because this will also help inform future webinars. So please share any and all feedback that you have for us tonight. And I'll pass it back to Kelly now to close up for the night. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Sarah, if you don't mind putting that link in the chat for the eval in case that's easier for folks.
Yes.
I would so appreciate it. I really do want to encourage you to do these evaluations. They really do help us. They help us just talk about the programs that we are doing and share that with our funders that support us so that we can keep doing these things, these caregiver guidances and other activities that we do at no charge. So please, please, please take a minute to scan the code or find the link in the chat. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Whew. We covered a lot today, and I would love to see some of your takeaways in the chat. What are you taking away from our time together? What is something that stood out to you? What are you looking forward to trying on with your family? Friends, this webinar is being recorded and will be available for those interested in a recap or in sharing with a friend or family member. We're going to also follow up next week with an email with the recording and include the links that we shared with all the resources today, with all the resources that we shared today. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. I'm enjoying seeing your takeaways in the chat. Keep them coming. Strengthening bonds activities was a highlight. Love that. Of course, the blending of the Play-Doh, Sarah, an all-time fave.
Love that one. Kids love it. And a lot of school counselors we work with use it a lot too. And they just love the symbolism of it. And it's a great kind of conversation starter as you start to think through that one. I love it so much. Yeah.
And we will make sure that one is on our list as well. All right, friends, thank you so much. I appreciate your gratitude, and I really look forward to other times that we get to connect. My email is up here. If there's anything I can do to support you, please reach out. And thank you again so much for prioritizing being here tonight. I hope you have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you all. Bye.